On the back of round 16, NRL fantasy coaches can be placed in two camps. Either you had some big scorers this week and you are overjoyed, flying up the ranks. Yeah, those Titans boys, you're on a good wave here. Or you're someone who maybe you had an average week and you felt yourself dropping or stagnating in those ranks. So you're one of those two camps. I was in the latter camp there. My rank stayed pretty much exactly the same. But saying that, we're going to go through the scores for this week and we're going to have a look at the big scorers and whether we should overreact and just jump onto these guys or whether it's a bit of a fluke. So let's get right into this here. First up, we've got for the Dolphins and the Storm, Jerome Hughes. He was the leader here, 74 fantasy points. Jerome Hughes is on fire right now. That average is 58.9. The recent average is massive as well. So without Cam Munster, he's been unstoppable. Had a try, 2 try assists. You've got, 455 kick meters as well. Jerome Hughes is running the show, and he was a big part of why they won this game. Jermaine Osako, 62 points. He can do that any given week, has tries in him. Going on the list here, Eli Katoa scored a 52, which is nice. No attacking stats in that one, so just a solid 52 for him. Trey Fuller, I think it's the end of the run here. So if you have Trey Fuller, it's probably time to go on him. But 52 points is a great farewell gift. So take that 52 points and probably make that trade now is my recommendation. Tyron Wishart grabbed another try, scored 49 points. This guy cannot stop scoring fantasy points. Ewan Aitken grabbed the try. He played a lot of wing in this game, so it's a bit of a weird one to look into. So you can see like the 16 tackles, for example. That's not typical for Ewan Aitken. He's much more that 55 average kind of guy. But he had a try here which saved his score. So Ewan Aitken, look, he's reliable. He's getting it done. Sean Blaw, 48 points, 80 minutes. Very encouraging for him long term. He's playing that 80 minutes, but he does need Cam Munster back to increase that attacking upside. And down the list here, JMK, 46 points. Plath, 46 points as well. And then if we go down the list, it's getting a bit lighter. Herbie Farmworth, 34 points is a bit more disappointing. Fea Longo played off the bench, 23 points in 19 minutes is actually pretty impressive there, but just didn't get the minutes. And then Tevita Pangai Jr., 24 points. Not enough to write home about for fantasy, but he was pretty fun to watch. I'm going to say that. Put some shots on, and yeah, he's entertaining. Next game here, we got the Titans and the Warriors, and this one's a cracker. So Jaden Campbell, 89 points. Absolute monster performance. He had, I believe, 3 try assists in this game. He had the 11 goals as well. He ran a few meters here, had some tackle breaks, just did everything, right? So a huge stat line across the board. 7 missed tackles, so it could have been even higher in terms of that score. But the big thing here is that 3 try assists, the try, the 11 goals. Keeney, on the other hand, he was more of a running game here. So 250 run meters, 85 fantasy points, had 2 tries, also had 2 try savers. So he was doing on defensive end as well. And look, these boys were a big result of the scoreline that we saw in this game. So we had the Warriors get absolutely spanked by the Titans, which I've got to say a lot of people weren't picking it, but a few of you guys did tip it as well. So I actually look at my NRL.com tipping league, and yeah, a lot of people actually jumped on the Titans here, but I was personally on the Warriors, so I was pretty shocked by this one, if I'm going to be honest. Cam Pereira scored 4 tries in this game, 71 fantasy points. I'm not going to go buy him, but that's pretty awesome to see. Chris Randall, 66 points. For Feeder, 64 points. Got a rest in this game. Didn't have the big attacking plays, so that could have been anything if you got involved in some of those attacking plays. Aaron Clark, 55 points in 47 minutes. The guy we've been waiting for, but it's too late now. We can't make that move. For Noah Blake, 39 points in 50 minutes is a bit quieter. I'm not too worried, right? He scores tries. When he scores tries, he scores well. When he makes those attacking plays, he plays well. But without those, he's not the biggest scorer, just not a pure work rate guy. Then Wade Egan, 34 points. And then down the list here, Sean Johnson, 20 points. Is really quiet for him. He's going to get really cheap. I'm hearing a hamstring injury as well that could be niggling there. And then Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, 7 points. He's going to get very cheap. Could be a pod option down the stretch if you're running low on cash. All right, rolling to the next game here, we got the Roosters and the Bulldogs. And this one's a bit less eventful. Terrell May cranked out 84 points, had the try, 37 tackles, 214 run meters, and the 5 tackle breaks. So just a real workman's performance when you throw in the try, and it's a massive score for him. Tedesco, 64 points. Again, no huge attacking stats here, but he had the 13 tackle breaks, which, mate, when Teddy's on fire like that, he can't be touched. So he had one of those games. We had Carraz with 63. Skelton, I really like Skelton as a player. 58 points. He put on a show in this game. And if he ever gets a long-term starting job at any team, basically, I would be buying him in fantasy immediately. Sam Walker, 54 points as well. Brendan Smith bounced back to a bit of form with 46. Keep an eye on that with Connor Watson coming back next week, though, so that could fade potentially. Reed Marnie, he got a game where he made 58 tackles and he scored 42 fantasy points. So 8 missed tackles, had the error as well. But overall, it was a great work. Again, a great work rate from him. Just didn't really convert to the fantasy score we were hoping for. King, 41 points is solid enough. Going down the list here, Joey Manu really hurt us a lot. 34 points. I've got to say, owning Joey Manu has not been the experience I was hoping for it to be. He's playing good footy in real life, but just not racking up those fantasy stats like I was hoping for. And then down the list here, Matty Burton, 27, playing a bit of center, which is a bit weird. Dom Young, 27 points with a try. It was not Dom Young's kind of day. It was very, very wet. So that doesn't play into his strengths. And then at the bottom of the list, no one's too crazy to talk about here. I think Pauga will have a bit of time on the pine with the hit he put on. And White played very few minutes in this game. So if you have White, it's a bad break. It's a bad break, my friend. All right, next up here, the Bunnies, 14-0 against Manly. And yeah, Manly were missing some troops in this game, so I'm not really holding it against them too much. But I will say a couple of the players at the top here, some pretty good scores. So Damien Cook here, 82 points. He had 8 tackle breaks, 44 tackles, had the 2 try assists. Damien Cook is firming as that top hooker option down the stretch. He has a bye next week. If you don't own Damien Cook, though, it's not actually insane to go and buy him in round 18. I don't mind that move at all. There are other options to look at too, but Damien Cook is a guy who he's on fire right now. The risk is that Marmazelis is their long-term hooker going forward, and St. George have signed Damien Cook. So down the stretch of this year, he might get a bit of a rest here and there. They might give Marmazelis more minutes. You don't know what's going to happen here. There is a bit of risk in that, but not a lot of risk because he is basically their best player right now. Kaloa Matangi grabbed the try. He had 250 run meters in this game as well, 68 points. Nathan Brown and Tafua Sipley, 57 and 55 points. They benefited big from the injuries and the origin emissions that Manly have. Cody Walker, 54 points is solid. Down the list here, no one too relevant for fantasy. Gray, I guess, if you got on Gray for 1 week, 50 points. He's a bit of a stud as well when he gets the role. Ben Trebojevic, 41 points. Jack White, and 38. 38 is fine without any attacking stats. You can cop that, but you want to see more of those attacking stats. That's the key. Kohler got 36, so much more involved this week, which is a good sign. And then rolling down the list here, Lehigh Hopewadi, 27 isn't great. Mamazelis getting himself nice and cheap. So next year, we're all going to be on this guy because he'll be that starting hooker for South Sydney. But right now, steer clear because Damien Cook's still at the club. All right, going through to final game of the round. We've got the Tigers and the Raiders, and the Tigers put on a show. And how good was it to see? Up the Tigers. I love that. I love that. I don't want them winning 3 spoons in a row. And I know it put Parramatta in the spoon spot, so I shouldn't be rooting for it. But I'm rooting for the Tigers right now. I really think Benji's come under a lot of pressure, and the club has too. And they deserve some wins, right? I'd love for them to keep Galvin, get Luai next year. They got Coruscant on fire. Bull is a freak. And then they've got some pretty good players around that as well. If they can keep Dewey at center, potentially. I just reckon the future is bright for the Tigers. So I hope they can get it together. For this game, though, Joey Tarpanay was the top fantasy scorer with 76. He just, again, did his work. No big attacking plays here, but he had the 5 tackle breaks. He had, I think it was 177 run meters, 3 offloads, something like that. 76 fantasy points is huge. Coruscant and Galvin with 75 each, both some big attacking plays and big attacking involvements here. They both put on a show here. Adam Dewey, 68 points in his first game back. I do not expect that from him at center. Just putting this on the record, I don't think you should go and buy him at center. But if you ever got a spot in the halves, Adam Dewey is one of those guys who can produce a 55 average as a half. But as a center, it's a bit less reliable. At the price he's at, I wouldn't be doing it personally. Nick Kotrick had a big game with 64 points. We had Samuel Afinu, 58 points. You love to see that. He's finally sort of getting some luck with injuries, and he could have had even more points. We had a couple of try assists that were denied by the video ref or just little plays, guys not getting the ball down. Fino could have had 80 points in this game, 100%. Stefano Utoikamanu, 52 points there with the try is not super inspiring, but he scores tries, so you got to factor that into his scoring. Buller, a bit better, 48 points here as well. KO Weeks with a 48. Smithies hit 41. Jordan Rapana, 38. I thought he'd do a bit more in this game. He had some attacking stats, but it just didn't click for the Raiders at all in this game. Strange, 37 points, really saved his day at the back end of this one. And then down the list here, Safer, 31 in 51 minutes is not as good as you'd hope for if you were a Safer holder, but you did have that sin bin, so that's probably what sort of nailed his score. Tomoko, 24 points. He's getting pretty cheap, and he's a guy who could be a keeper down the stretch of Canberra, sort of figure out how to hand him the ball. But at the moment, I can't make that move as much as I do love Tomoko. And then Tape, 20 points, keeping that average very, very reasonable. He's probably one of those guys who, the fantasy score doesn't reflect the performance, I think, with a guy like him. So you never want to get on for fantasy with him. Anyway, that is our reactions to round 16. Hopefully it was a good week for you. Hopefully you're one of the coaches who had the big scorers and not someone who just struggled through. Good luck with this next week, guys. Hopefully Origin goes well. Hopefully the Blues get the win and we see a decider for game 3. Good luck, everyone.